Everyone says police dogs are fearless, but no one expected what this dog would do in his final moments. Ranger, the legendary police dog, lay weak and motionless, his body trembling, struggling to breathe. The vet had delivered the words that shattered the officer's world. "It's time. We can't save him." Everyone was crying as the vet stepped forward, syringe in hand. Everyone thought this was the end. Then the little girl he once saved ran into the room and screamed, "Wait!" Everyone froze. And then something happened no one expected. The dog lifted his paw slowly and wrapped it around the girl in one final hug. Every heart broke. Even the toughest officers turned away, unable to watch. In that moment, the vet took a step forward, staring, confused, then alarmed. Something was wrong. His eyes widened. His voice cracked. "Wait, stop everything. This dog is trying to tell us something." What he discovered next left everyone in shock. Stay with us because this story will leave you speechless. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The morning had started like any other. At the Brookside Police Department. Quiet radios, half-finished coffee mugs. Officers reviewing reports from the night shift. Everything felt normal. Until the doors burst open and Officer Jacobs stumbled inside, breathless, his face pale as chalk. "Rangers down." The room froze. Every officer looked up at once. Conversations died instantly. Even the hum of computers seemed to fade. Ranger, the department's most beloved police, K9, wasn't just a dog. He was a hero, a partner, a guardian who had saved more lives than anyone could count. Hearing those words felt like a punch straight to the chest. Captain Harris stood so quickly his chair slammed against the floor. "What happened?" he demanded. Jacobs swallowed hard. He was tracking a suspect in the woods. He suddenly collapsed. No warning, no noise, just dropped. "He's barely breathing. They're rushing him to Oakage Veterinary Hospital right now." A heavy silence swept over the room, the kind that presses against your ribs. Officers exchanged looks filled with disbelief, fear, and grief. Ranger, the strongest, bravest, most unstoppable dog they had ever known. How could he collapse just like that? Officer Miller slammed his fist against the desk. No, that can't be right. But deep down, everyone knew Jacobs wouldn't have run into the station like that unless it was serious. Dead serious. Across town, the news reached Lily Parker just moments later. She had been sitting at the kitchen table finishing her homework when her mother answered a phone call and suddenly covered her mouth, eyes wide with horror. "Lily, honey, it's Ranger." Lily's pencil slipped from her fingers. Her heart dropped into her stomach. "What about him, Mom? What about him?" Her mother hesitated, voice trembling. "He collapsed. They're taking him to the hospital." The little girl didn't wait for another word. She bolted toward the door, her tears already blurring her vision. Ranger wasn't just a dog to her. He was her protector. The one who had saved her life months ago. The one who slept beside her bed whenever she had nightmares. The one who nudged her with his nose whenever she cried. To her, he was family. Her father grabbed the keys, barely managing to keep his own voice steady. "Get in. We'll be there in 5 minutes." The drive felt endless. Lily pressed her face to the window, sobbing quietly, whispering, "Please be okay. Please be okay." Back at the station, the officers gathered their gear and headed for the hospital, too. No one wanted Ranger to fight his battle alone, but a chilling truth hung in the air. No one knew if he would survive long enough for them to get there. The doors of Oakage Veterinary Hospital slid open with a soft hiss, but the atmosphere inside was anything but calm. Officers crowded the waiting area. Stern men and women who had faced armed criminals without blinking. Now standing frozen, their eyes red, their hands clenched, their breasts shallow. Lily stepped inside between her parents, her small fingers digging into her father's coat as she scanned the room. She had never seen so many police officers gathered in one place, and never this silent. It felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Officer Miller noticed her first. His face softened instantly. He crouched down, opening his arms. Lily ran straight into them. He held her tightly, his voice cracking. "He's fighting, sweetheart." Ranger's a strong boy, but the tremble in his voice told her more than his words ever could. Her mother placed a hand gently on Lily's shoulder. "Where is he?" she asked quietly. Officer Jacobs pointed down the hallway. "Room 3. They're stabilizing him. The vet said he's in critical condition." Critical. The word echoed inside Lily's mind like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. As they walked down the hallway, every step felt heavier. The lights above flickered softly, the smell of disinfectant filling the air. Lily wiped her tears with her sleeve, trying to stay brave the way Ranger had always taught her. But nothing could prepare her for what she saw when she reached the open doorway. Ranger lay on a cold metal table, his chest rising and falling in small, uneven breaths. His fur, usually neatly groomed and shining, looked dull. His eyes, half opened, stared at nothing. A monitor beside him beeped slower than it should. A tube ran from his mouth. 2 vets worked frantically around him. "Ranger," Lily whispered. His ear twitched, just barely, but enough for Lily to collapse into her mother's arms and sobs. Dr. Collins, the head veterinarian, looked up. His expression was full of the kind of sympathy that only came from years of giving heartbreaking news. He stepped toward Lily, kneeling so he could look her in the eyes. "He's very sick," he said gently. "But he knows you're here. That's helping him more than anything we can do." Lily sniffed, stepping closer until her hands rested on the edge of the table. "I'm right here, Ranger." "Right here," she whispered. The German shepherd let out a faint broken whine, the first sound he'd managed since collapsing. Officers in the doorway wiped their eyes. It was clear to everyone watching. Ranger was holding on for her. The sight of Ranger lying helpless on the metal table sent Lily's mind spiraling back to the day everything changed. The day Ranger became more than a police dog. The day he became her hero. It had been a warm autumn afternoon. Lily, only 8 but full of curiosity, had wandered a little too far from the neighborhood park while chasing a yellow butterfly. The sunlight flickered through the tall trees, shadows stretching like fingers across the path. She didn't notice how quiet the world had become, how the cheerful sounds of families and children faded behind her. She didn't notice the man watching her either. He stepped out from behind an old oak tree, his voice smooth and friendly. "Hey there, sweetie. Are you lost?" Lily froze. Something about the way he smiled felt wrong, too wide, too stiff. "I'm going back," she stammered, trying to step around him, but he grabbed her wrist. Her tiny scream was swallowed by the forest. He dragged her deeper between the trees, his grip tight enough to leave marks. "Be quiet," he hissed. "No one can hear you out here." But someone could. For the past hour, Officer Miller and Ranger had been assisting a search for a missing purse thief. Ranger, with his sharp nose and unbreakable focus, had been leading the way until he suddenly stopped cold. His ears shot up. His muscles went rigid. His tail stiffened. Then he broke into a full sprint. "Ranger, Ranger, wait!" Miller shouted, sprinting after him. But Ranger wasn't listening. He had locked onto something else, something urgent, something terrible. He barreled through bushes, tore past fallen branches, and crashed through a wall of tall grass until he slid into a shadowy clearing. And there he saw her. The man had one hand over Lily's mouth, trying to drag her toward an old shed. Lily's eyes were wide with terror, her muffled screams drowned by the wind. Ranger didn't hesitate. A roar ripped from his throat. A sound so fierce the man froze. Before he could react, Ranger lunged, knocking him to the ground. The man screamed, scrambling backward as Ranger stood between him and the little girl, teeth bared, eyes blazing with protective fury. Officer Miller burst into the clearing seconds later. "Hands where I can see them," he yelled. The man surrendered immediately, shaking. Ranger stayed in front of Lily until Miller cuffed the kidnapper and dragged him away. Only then did Ranger turn around. He approached Lily slowly, his tail lowering, his head tilting with gentle concern. Lily, trembling, crawled toward him and wrapped her arms around his neck. She sobbed into his fur as Ranger leaned into her, licking the tears from her cheeks. From that day on, Lily never walked anywhere without whispering, "My hero! My Ranger!" And now, standing beside his failing body, Lily felt the same terror she had felt in those woods, only worse. This time she was the one afraid of losing him. Dr. Collins removed his gloves slowly, the way doctors do when they're preparing to say something no one wants to hear. The soft beeping of the monitor behind him echoed through the room like a countdown, each sound tightening the knot in Lily's chest. Officers crowded the doorway, but not one of them dared to step farther inside. Even the strongest among them, men who had stared down armed criminals without fear, looked shattered. Some stared at the floor, others pressed fists to their lips. No one spoke. Finally, Bury, Dr. Collins exhaled. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Ree's condition is extremely serious." Lily's breath caught. Her mother gripped her shoulders. The vet continued, his tone gentle but heavy. "He's experiencing rapid organ decline. His temperature is unstable. His heart rate keeps dropping. We're trying everything, but it's not responding the way we hoped." Officer Miller's voice cracked. "What caused it?" "He was fine yesterday." "We're not sure yet," Dr. Collins said, shaking his head. "It could be an internal infection, a delayed reaction to an injury, or something rare we haven't identified. But whatever it is," he hesitated, choosing his words carefully, "it's advanced. Very advanced." Lily stepped forward. Is he dying?" Her voice was so soft that the question almost floated away, but everyone heard it, and it hit them harder than any bullet ever could. Dr. Collins knelt in front of her. His eyes glistened with emotion. He had treated Ranger for years. "Sweetheart," he whispered, "he's fighting harder than any dog I've ever seen, but right now he needs you to stay strong for him." Lily wiped her tears, but they kept coming. She turned to Ranger, whose shallow breasts fogged the oxygen mask. She reached out, gently, touching his paw. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Rare's eyelids fluttered. His ears twitched at her voice. A faint whine escaped him, weak, but unmistakably his. Officers in the doorway turned away, wiping their eyes. Dr. Collins cleared his throat. "We'll give him as much time as we can," he said. "But if his heart rate drops again, we may have to discuss humane options." The world seemed to tilt. Lily's legs buckled and her mother caught her. She buried her face in her hands, shaking. The painful truth settled over the room like a thick fog. Ranger might not make it through the next hour. For a long moment, Lily just stood there staring at Ranger through a haze of tears. The world around her felt muted. The footsteps of officers, the soft hum of machines, her mother's whispered reassurances, all faded until the only thing she could hear was the uneven rhythm of Rare's breathing. She took a shaky step forward, then another. The vets exchanged glances, but didn't stop her. Everyone in the room knew this moment wasn't medical. It was emotional, spiritual. Ranger needed her. Lily rested her small hands on the edge of the metal table. Her fingertips brushed against Rare's fur, still warm, but frighteningly limp. His eyes cracked open just barely, as if the effort took everything he had left. But when he saw her, really saw her, Something in his gaze softened. "Hey, boy," Lily whispered, voice trembling. "It's me. I'm here." Ranger let out a faint, broken exhale. It wasn't a bark. It wasn't a whine. It was the sound of a warrior recognizing the person he cared for most in the world. Lily pulled a small pink hair ribbon from her pocket. One Ranger always tugged on during playtime. She held it gently against his paw. "Do you remember this?" she asked, forcing a tiny trembling smile. "You used to steal it from me all the time." His ear twitched. She swallowed hard. "I know you're tired," she whispered. "I know it hurts." She reached up and brushed a tear from Ariar's cheek. "And if you have to go, I just want you to know you were the best friend I ever had." A sob escaped her before she could stop it. She leaned her forehead against his, whispering through her tears, "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for being my hero." Behind her, Officer Miller pressed a hand to his mouth, turning away. Another officer wiped his eyes. Even Dr. Collins paused, pretending to adjust a machine so no one would see the tears building in his own eyes. "Can you?" Lily's voice faltered. She took a breath. "Can you hug me one last time, please?" She reached for his paw, lifting it carefully with both hands. It felt heavier than before, weak, almost lifeless. But when she guided it toward her shoulder, Ranger tried. His muscles trembled, his claws scraped softly against the table. His leg quivered with effort. It wasn't enough to reach her, but it was enough to show he was trying for her. Lily leaned closer, letting his paw rest against her arm. "That's okay," she whispered, tears streaming. "You don't have to do it alone. I'll help you." Ranger closed his eyes, breathing unevenly, as if gathering the last fragments of his strength, and somewhere deep inside the failing dog's body, the fight wasn't over yet. For several long seconds, the room was silent. So silent that everyone could hear the faint ticking of the wall clock. Each second, marking Rare's fading strength, Lily stood beside the table, holding his paw against her arm, her tears dripping onto his fur. She wasn't crying loudly. Her pain was too deep for that. Instead, she trembled quietly, whispering his name like a prayer. "Ranger, please." Collins checked the monitor. The heart rate dipped again. Officers shifted anxiously. Someone whispered, "Come on, boy." Barely audible. Then Ranger's ear twitched slowly, painfully. He opened his eyes. They were cloudy, unfocused, but they searched the room until they found her. Lily, his girl, his reason for every mission, every fight, every breath. A weak rumble vibrated in his throat. It wasn't a growl. It wasn't distress. It was recognition and love. "Ranger," Lily whispered, leaning closer. What happened next made every grown adult in the room suck in a breath. Ranger tried again, his paw pulled. Barely, but the intention was unmistakable. His muscles trembled like thin wires stretched to the point of snapping. His body shuddered with the weight of the effort. Yet he pushed. He pushed because she asked, because she needed him. Because she was the little girl whose tears he had licked away in the woods. The girl whose kidnappers he had fought off without fear. The girl he had sworn, in his own silent way, to protect until his last heartbeat. Lily helped him lift his paw higher, and with one final surge of strength, Ranger pressed his leg around her small shoulders. He hugged her. A soft, shaky whimper escaped Lily's lips as she leaned into him, wrapping both arms around his neck. "It's okay. It's okay," she whispered, though her voice cracked with every word. "I've got you. You're safe. I'm right here." Rare's breathing hitched. His nose brushed her cheek. A tear rolled down from the corner of his eye. Just a single drop, glistening in the light. Officer Miller pressed his hand to his chest, tears falling freely. "Oh, God," he muttered. "He's saying goodbye." Dr. Collins blinked rapidly, wiping his glasses to hide the moisture in his eyes. A young officer stepped out of the room, unable to watch. But no matter how painful the moment was, no one looked away for long. Because this wasn't just a dog hugging a child. This was a final promise. A soldier giving everything he had left for the person he loved most. The hug lasted only seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Beautiful and unbearable at the same time. When RER's paw finally slipped from her shoulder and fell limply onto the table, Lily gasped. "Ranger," she whispered. Urgently. "Ranger, stay with me. Please stay." The monitor beeped irregularly. His breaths came slow, too slow. Everyone in the room knew the truth. That hug might have been his last. The room felt colder now, colder than the steel table, colder than the fluorescent lights above. Lily still stood beside Ranger, her hand resting gently on his paw, as if her touch alone could anchor him to life. Officers lined the doorway, like silent statues, unable to step away, yet unable to step closer. Collins glanced at the monitor again. Ranger's heart rate dipped dangerously low, the beeps growing farther apart. Weaker, more fragile. The vet took a long, steadying breath, then turned to the small metal tray beside him. On it lay a single syringe, clear liquid, a thin needle, a terrible truth. Lily saw it. Everyone saw it. The vet hesitated. Before picking it up, his hands trembling slightly despite years of experience. "This is the part one never get used to," he whispered under his breath, though the room was so silent that everyone heard him. Lily's mother wrapped her arms around her shoulders, but Lily stepped forward, shaking her head violently. "No, wait, please. Isn't there something else you can do?" Dr. Collins knelt beside her, his face full of heartbreak. "Sweetheart, if Ranger keeps suffering like this, he's going to be in pain. So much pain. This would let him rest peacefully." Lily's tears fell harder. "But he hugged me. He tried. Doesn't that mean he wants to stay?" The vet's voice cracked. "He loves you more than anything, but his body is giving out." Behind them, Officer Miller clenched his jaw, tears slipping down his cheeks. "If there were any other choice," he muttered, "we'd take it." Dr. Collins stood again, holding the syringe. Every step he took felt heavier than the last. He approached the table slowly, as if each footstep carried the weight of the world. Lily pressed her forehead to Ranger's, whispering through her sobs. "Love you. Thank you for everything. You can rest if you need to. I'll be okay. Promise." The monitor beeped weakly. Rare's chest lifted, fell, lifted, fell. The vet positioned the needle near RER's leg, pausing for a long moment. His hand trembled. "Goodbye, boy," he whispered. The entire room held its breath. Officers, parents, nurses, even the walls themselves seemed frozen. Just as the needle began to lower toward Ranger's skin, something shifted. A sound, a twitch, a change so subtle yet so shocking, it stopped the vet's hand midair. For a heartbeat, no one understood what happened. Dr. Collins froze mid-movement, the syringe suspended inches above Ranger's skin. His eyes narrowed, his breath catching. The officers leaned forward. Lily lifted her head, her tears pausing on her cheeks. What was that?" she whispered. Rare's leg twitched again. But this time, it wasn't the faint fading spasm of a dying body. It was sharper, intentional, a response. Dr. Collins stepped back, stunned. "Hold on. Everyone. Don't move." The room obeyed instantly. He leaned closer to RER's chest, placing his hand gently over the dog's rib cage. Seconds stretched like hours. RER's breathing, which had been shallow and irregular, suddenly shifted. Not stronger, but different, uneven in a way that didn't match the slow deterioration they were expecting. "What is it?" Officer Miller asked, voice cracking. Dr. Collins didn't answer. He adjusted the oxygen mask, checking Ranger's gums, then the pupils. Something didn't add up. The decline had been too sudden, too dramatic, like a switch was flipped. Then Ranger let out a sound, a soft, strained grunt, not of pain, but of discomfort, like something deep inside him was pressing for release. He shifted slightly, his body tensing for a moment before relaxing. Again. Lily gasped. Ranger, Ranger, can you hear me? His ear twitched, this time more clearly than before. The vet's eyes widened. He turned abruptly toward the monitor, adjusting the sensors. This isn't typical organ failure, he muttered half to himself. This pattern, these fluctuations, this isn't what we see at the end. Officer Jacobs stepped closer. Doc, are you saying I'm saying something is interfering with his system? Duh. Collins said sharply. Something we're missing. He placed the syringe back on the tray, his hands trembling. Not from sadness now, but from adrenaline. I need to run an emergency scan. Immediately. Lily's mother covered her mouth in shock. Officers exchanged confused glances, hope flickering behind their tears. Lily clutched Ranger's paw again. Is he still dying? She asked, her voice shaking. Dr. Collins met her eyes. His voice changed completely. Still serious, but no longer final. I don't know, he said honestly. But I'm not giving up on him yet. Not after that. Two nurses rushed in with a portable scanner. The room buzzed with sudden urgency. The heaviness that had suffocated everyone moments ago was replaced with something electric. Possibility. As they lifted Ranger carefully for the scan, Lily whispered into his ear, I knew you weren't done fighting. The portable scanner beeped to life, its cold glow washing over Rare's limp body. Nurses worked quickly, sliding the device into position as Dr. Collins hovered beside them, eyes locked on the monitor as if trying to solve a puzzle with only seconds left on the clock. Officers crowded closer, no longer frozen in grief, but fueled by a new kind of tension. One that trembled between hope and fear. Lily stood on tiptoe, holding Rare's paw. Please, please find something, she whispered. The vet swallowed hard. Starting scan now. The machine buzzed, sending faint vibrations through the metal table. Lines and shapes appeared on the screen, fuzzy at first, then sharpening into a grayscale image of Rare's internal structure. For a moment, Dr. Collins's face remained blank. Then his eyes widened. He leaned in closer, adjusting the angle, scanning the image again and again. His breath grew louder, heavier. The color drained from his face, not in fear, but in disbelief. What is it? Officer Miller asked, voice cracking. Dr. Collins didn't respond immediately. His hands moved rapidly over the controls, switching views, zooming in, analyzing. His heart hammered so loudly in his chest, he could hear it over the hum of the machine. Finally, he exhaled. Sharply. Oh my God. Lily's fingers tightened around Ariar's paw. What is it? Is he okay? Dr. Collins looked at her, and for the first time since Ranger collapsed, there was something in his eyes that had been missing before. Hope. Everyone, look at this. He pointed to the screen. Officers crowded around. Lily's parents stepped forward. Even the nurses leaned in. The scan showed a shadow, an irregular dark mass pressing against Rare's diaphragm. Not a tumor, not fluid buildup. Something else. Entirely. That's not organ failure, Dr. Collins said, voice trembling. It's an obstruction, Officer Jacobs blinked. An obstruction like something stuck inside him. Yes, the vet said quickly. A foreign object. Something that's been there for a while. Maybe from a mission, maybe from a fight, maybe from debris. He inhaled, he traced the outline on the screen. It's pressing against nerves and restricting his breathing. That's why his vitals were collapsing. Lily's mother gasped. So, he's not dying. Dr. Collins raised a hand. Let me be clear. He's in critical condition. Very critical. But this he looked at the screen again, almost in awe. This is treatable. If we remove the obstruction in time, he has a chance. The room erupted in stunned whispers. Officer Miller staggered back, covering his face with both hands as tears slipped through his fingers. This time, tears of relief. Lily pressed her hands to her mouth, her voice trembling. "You can fix him. You can really fix him." Dr. Collins knelt so he was eye level with her. "I can try," he said softly. "I promise you, Lily. I'm going to give him everything I've got." A nurse stepped forward. "Prep the surgical room." Immediately, Dr. Collins replied. Officers straightened their backs. The despair that had weighed them down just minutes ago lifted like fog burning off under the sun. As they gently lifted Ranger for emergency surgery, Lily leaned close to his ear. "You held on long enough for them to see," she whispered, voice breaking. "You're so brave. Keep fighting." "Okay." Rare's ear twitched stronger this time. It was all the answer she needed. The surgical room. Lights flickered on, casting a cold, sterile glow across the stainless steel trays and humming machines. Nurses moved, quickly but carefully, prepping instruments with practiced precision. The doors swung open and Dr. Collins entered, with the kind of focused determination normally reserved for life or death moments. Because that's exactly what this was. Ranger lay unconscious on the operating table, his chest rising in shallow, rhythmic breaths. Lily stood outside the glass window with her parents and half the police department behind her, all watching with a mixture of hope and fear. Her hands were pressed against the glass, her breath fogging a small circle on the surface. Inside, Dr. Collins positioned himself, lowering the magnifying lights. Heart rate unstable, but holding, a nurse announced. "Good," he replied. "We're going in." The first incision was small, but deliberate. The room fell into a tense silence, broken only by the rhythmic beeping of the monitor and the soft hum of machinery. Dr. Collins navigated through layers of tissue with the care of someone handling the most fragile treasure in the world. Then he stopped. "There it is," he whispered. Nurses leaned in. Even Officer Miller outside pressed closer to the glass. Embedded deep near Rare's diaphragm was a jagged piece of metal, no larger than a bottle cap, darkened with time and wear. It looked like shrapnel, the kind that comes from broken fences, debris, or even a criminal's weapon. Whatever it was, it had been inside him for weeks, maybe months. But how? And why now? Collins gently touched the embedded fragment. The moment he pressed the area surrounding it, Ranger's vitals wavered sharply before settling again. "This is the culprit," Dr. Collins said. Every time he breathed, every movement he made, this thing was cutting deeper. It triggered inflammation, internal swelling, nerve pressure, everything. The nurse gazed softly. How was he still working like this? "Because he's Ranger," Officer Jacobs whispered from outside. "He never stops." Dr. Collins nodded. "He must have taken this injury during duty and kept fighting, kept working until his body couldn't compensate anymore." Lily's father swallowed hard. "So, he collapsed because his body couldn't handle the internal damage any longer," the vet said. "But the good news is that we can remove it." The room seemed to exhale at once. Carefully, meticulously, Dr. Collins worked to free the metal shard. The moment it loosened, Ranger's vitals fluctuated wildly. Nurses hovered, ready to intervene. "Hold steady, boy. Hold steady," the vet murmured. With one final tug, the shard came free. The monitor spiked, then steadied. The room burst into relief gas. Outside the glass, officers embraced each other. Lily fell to her knees, crying, but this time they were tears of hope. Dr. Collins held up the bloody shard with trembling fingers. "This is what nearly killed him," he said. Then he glanced at Ranger, his voice softening. "But this boy fought through it. He fought harder than any dog I've ever seen. Surgery wasn't over." But for the first time, Ranger had a real chance. The metal shard had been removed, but the battle was far from over. Ariar's body lay motionless beneath the bright surgical lights. Tubes and wires running across his fur like fragile lifelines. The beeping of the heart monitor fluctuated wildly, every rise and dip sending a jolt of fear into the room. Dr. Collins didn't look away from the screen for even a second. "Pressure is dropping again," a nurse warned her. Voice tight. "Get a second saline line started," Dr. Collins said, his voice steady but urgent. "We need to restore circulation before his organs begin shutting down." Outside the glass wall, Lily watched with her hands pressed to her chest, her heart pounding louder than the beeping monitors. Her father wrapped an arm around her shoulders, but Lily didn't react. She couldn't look away. She couldn't blink. Ranger needed her. She had to stay strong just like he always did. Inside the room, a nurse called out, "He's going into shock." Duh. Collins snapped into motion. "Push warm fluids now. Increase oxygen flow. Come on, Ranger. Stay with us." The next moments were a blur of frantic activity. Gloves snapping, machines whirring, nurses moving with synchronized precision. It felt like the entire world was balancing on a knife's edge, waiting to see which way fate would tip. Ranger's vitals dipped even lower. Officer Miller staggered back from the window. No. Come on, boy. Don't give up now." Lily pressed her palms against the glass, tears falling silently. "Fight, Ranger. Please fight." Her voice didn't reach the operating table, but her love did. Somehow, someway, Ariar's ear flickered. A tiny flicker barely noticeable, but enough to make Dr. Collins' head snap up. "There," he whispered. "He's responding. Increase heat. Keep massaging the tissue. He's fighting." Minutes passed. Like hours. The heart monitor beeped erratically, then evened out for a moment, then dipped again. Each swing made Lily's breath catch, her tiny body trembling with fear. A nurse spoke. Softly. "His heart's too weak." "No," Dr. Collins said firmly, almost angrily. "Not this dog. Not today. Charge the stabilizer. We're bringing him back." The room brightened as a machine hummed to life. They placed the soft stabilizing pads over Ariar's chest. Not enough to shock him, but enough to stimulate his heart rhythm. "Ready," a nurse said. "Now," Dr. Collins commanded. A pulse of energy traveled through Rare's body. The monitor froze. Everyone held their breath. Then, beep, 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 beep. Steadier, stronger. Wave of relief swept through the operating room. Officers outside the window gasped aloud. Lily collapsed into her mother's arms, sobbing with hope. He wasn't safe yet, but Ranger was still fighting. And the race wasn't over. The operating room felt like a battlefield now. Bright lights blazing down, machines whirring, gloves snapping, commands firing back and forth with razor-sharp urgency. Ranger lay in the center of it all, his chest rising in shallow, fragile movements. Each breath sounding like a whispered plea. "Vitals are climbing but still unstable," a nurse announced. "Duh." Collins nodded without looking up. Sweat beat on his forehead, but his hands stayed steady as stone. "We need to clear the internal swelling, prepare the anti-inflammatory drip." Another nurse jumped into action. On it, outside the glass window, the hallway was filled with officers, men and women who had chased danger for years without fear. Yet now, every one of them stood with trembling hands, tear-stained faces, and clenched jaws. They had never felt more helpless. Lily stood in front of them all, her small palms remained pressed against the glass, her forehead resting just below her hands. She whispered almost constantly, as if her words were tiny threads holding Ranger to life. "You can do this. You're brave. Please don't leave me. I need you." Her voice wavered, cracked, broke, but never stopped. Inside, Dr. Collins gently lifted a section of tissue, inspecting the damage left by the metal shard. "He's lost too much blood," he muttered. "Start another transfusion." "Yes, doctor," the nurse replied immediately. Another nurse wiped away fluid from the wound. Swelling is decreasing, but his temperature is dropping. Raise external heat. Bring blankets. Increase for flow. The team moved fast, faster than they ever had before. It wasn't just medicine anymore. It was heart, determination. The unspoken promise they all silently made the moment Ranger collapsed. They weren't letting him die. Not today. Rare's body twitched weakly, almost like he was reacting to their voices. His paw shifted, his ear flickered. His chest rose with a shaky breath. "He's trying," one nurse whispered in awe. "He's really trying." Dr. Collins leaned closer. "That's it, boy. Stay with me." Suddenly, the monitor beeped erratically. Again. Vital spiked, then dipped, then spiked. Lily gasped outside. "Ranger! Doctor, what's happening?" Her father pulled her close, but she pushed forward again. Her eyes glued to the faint rise and fall of RER's chest. Inside, Dr. Collins barked, "Stabilize." His heart rhythm. "Push another dose now." A jolt of panic rippled through the room, but the vet's calm direction led the team like a conductor guiding a symphony in chaos. The medicine flowed. Machines hummed. Ranger's heart fought. Thought. Seconds stretched into unbearable minutes. Then slowly the chaotic peaks on the monitor softened. The jagged dips evened out. The beeping grew steadier, stronger. A collective breath filled the room. "He's stabilizing," a nurse whispered, covering her mouth. Dr. Collins sagged a little, relief pouring through his shoulders. "Good boy, a good strong boy." Outside the window, Lily's knees buckled in relief. Officer Miller caught her gently, his own tears falling freely. Ranger wasn't out of danger yet, but for the first time since collapsing. He wasn't dying. He was fighting harder than ever. And he was winning. The hallway outside the surgical room was so quiet that Lily could hear every trembling breath she took. Officers stood shoulder to shoulder, forming a wall of uniforms behind her. None of them spoke. None of them moved. They simply waited, frozen in the longest moment of their lives. Inside the room, the surgical lights clicked off one by one. A shadow moved behind the frosted glass. Then the door finally opened. Collins stepped out slowly, peeling off his gloves. His face was unreadable. Calm, tired, drained, and that made Lily's heart drop to her knees. Clutched her mother's hands so hard her knuckles turned white. "Doctor," she whispered. Is he?" For a moment, Dr. Collins didn't speak. He took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the crowd of officers who looked like they were preparing for the worst. Then he smiled. It wasn't a big smile. Not bright, not triumphant, but soft, warm, full of emotion. The kind of smile that brings a room back to life. "He made it," he said quietly. The hallway exploded. Officer Miller covered his face, shoulders shaking. Jacobs let out a long, shaky breath. Someone whispered, "Thank God," while another officer punched the air with a silent cheer. A few cried openly, but Lily didn't move. She just stared at Dr. Collins, stunned, unable to believe she'd heard the words correctly. He's alive," she whispered. The vet knelt in front of her, his voice gentle, but full of awe. "Yes, sweetheart. He's not out of the woods yet. He needs rest. He needs monitoring. But he survived the surgery. He fought harder than any dog I've ever seen." Lily's lip quivered. She covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her parents dropped to their knees beside her, wrapping their arms around her as she sobbed. This time with relief instead of heartbreak. "Can I see him?" she choked out. Dr. Collins nodded. "In a few minutes, he's waking up slowly, but he's stable enough for you to be with him." Officer Miller stepped forward, voice thick. "Doc, thank you. I mean it. You saved our family member." Dr. Collins shook his head. "No. Ranger saved himself. I just helped him finish the fight." The officers nodded, wiping their eyes. Pride filled the room like warm sunlight. A nurse approached. Dr. Ranger's heart rhythm is steady. He's responding to the sedative wear-off. Good, Dr. Collins replied. Let's prepare. Lily to see him. As Lily stood, her small legs trembling, the officers instinctively moved aside, forming a path for her. A path filled with respect, gratitude, and awe. She looked. At the door Ranger was behind. Moments ago, she thought she'd lost him forever. Now she was about to see her hero again, and every step she took toward that room felt like stepping back into the light after the darkest night of her life. The recovery room was dimly lit, warm and quiet, so different from the frantic chaos of the surgery. Machines beeped softly, their rhythms steady and calm. Ranger lay on a padded table now, wrapped in blankets, his chest rising and falling in slow, even breaths. A soft bandage covered the surgical site. His fur had been cleaned. His body looked fragile but peaceful. A nurse opened the door gently. Lily, you can come in now. Her small footsteps echoed, like the beating of a heart, trying to stay steady. The officer stayed outside the room, letting the little girl take these steps alone. Her parents followed a few paces behind, wiping their eyes. When Lily saw Ranger, her breath caught. There he was, her hero, her protector, her best friend, alive. She moved toward him slowly, afraid that if she blinked, he might disappear. When she reached the edge of the table, she placed her trembling hand on his paw. "Ranger," she whispered. His ear twitched. Her heart nearly burst. "Ranger, it's me. It's Lily. I'm here." The German shepherd's eyes fluttered twice. Then slowly, so slowly he seemed to fight his way through layers of heavy sleep, he opened them. They were glazed, weak, but full of something unmistakable. Recognition. Lily gasped and covered her mouth with both hands, tears pouring down her cheeks. "You came back," she whispered. "You really came back." Ranger shifted his paw barely an inch, but enough to reach her fingers. She immediately took it in both hands, kissing it gently. "I love you so much, boy. I'm so proud of you." His tail moved just once, a soft, tiny thump against the blanket, but it was enough to melt the entire police hallway into tears. Lily leaned closer, her forehead resting against his. "You don't have to be strong anymore," she whispered. "You just have to get better. I'll sit with you. I'll stay all night. I promise." Ranger let out a soft breath, almost like a sigh of relief. His eyes closed again, not from weakness this time, but from comfort. "Peace. Outside." The room, Officer Miller wiped his face and whispered to the others, "Get someone recording this. The world needs to see what love looks like." A nurse silently lifted her phone. Lily stroked Rare's fur, humming softly. The same lullaby she once used when she was scared. Except now she sang it for him. Rare's breathing deepened, steady and strong. The war was over. The reunion was complete. And this moment the image of a recovering police dog resting his paw in the tiny hands of the girl he'd nearly died protecting would soon become one of the most heartwarming stories the world had ever seen. The next morning, sunlight streamed softly through the hospital blinds, casting warm golden stripes across the recovery room floor. Ranger was still resting, but his breathing was steady, far steadier than it had been in days. His tail gave a faint wag every now and then, especially whenever Lily whispered to him or gently stroked his fur. Word had already spread across town. Dozens of officers, families, and even strangers filled the waiting area, each holding handmade posters, cards, and drawings. Children had scribbled pictures of Ranger wearing a tiny cape. Adults had written letters thanking him for his service. Someone had even placed a bouquet of roses in the shape of a dog paw outside the door. Inside the room, Lily sat cross-legged on a chair, watching Ranger sleep. Her eyes were still puffy from crying, but now those tears were the kind that washed away fear and left hope in its place. Her father stepped inside with a folded piece of paper. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "this came from the police department. They wanted you to read it first." Lily opened it carefully. It was a certificate, official, stamped, and beautifully framed. Honorary Medal of Bravery, Ranger, the K-9 hero. Her chin trembled as she read the words. "He deserves it," she whispered, brushing Rare's cheek with her fingertips. "He deserves everything." Outside the room, the officers gathered. Officer Miller stepped forward, clearing his throat. His voice carried the weight of pride, gratitude, and love that filled every corner of the hallway. "Ranger didn't just save a little girl," he said. "He saved all of us. He reminded us what loyalty looks like, what courage looks like, what a heart built for loving truly means." A murmur of agreement swept through the group. "From today," Miller continued, "Ranger will be honored as a hero across the entire department. His story will be taught to new recruits. His bravery will be remembered for generations." Inside the room, Lily leaned down and gently pressed a kiss to Rare's forehead. "Hear that?" she whispered, with a smile. "You're a legend now." Ariar's eyes fluttered open for a moment, just long enough for him to look at her with a soft, warm gaze, the kind that said everything he couldn't put into words. Love, gratitude, a promise that he'd always be by her side. Lily rested her head beside him. "You're not just a police dog," she whispered. "You're my hero, my angel, my best friend." And in that quiet golden moment, as the world outside buzzed with celebration, Ranger released a gentle sigh. A sigh of peace, of relief, and a message unspoken yet felt by everyone who knew him. Love fiercely, protect bravely, and never stop fighting for the ones who need you. Ranger had fought death itself, and his story would inspire millions.